morning, aloha, I'm Mac Lumen, this is Boo Boo. We're at the North Shore on Oahu, the town of Hawai'i, to talk about some things that I think is important for Hawaii. I'm running for governor in the primary, Democratic primary, coming up August 16th, I think, maybe it's the 13th. Okay, so I'm taking pages out of my website and reading them, talking a little bit about them. This is one of the second headings on the dashboard called After Homepage. Read the homepage, scroll down it, read it, and then the next one will be Hawaii Nation, Sacred Warrior Islands. January 18th, 1778. January 18th, 1778 is the official date attributed to Captain Cook's discovery of the Hawaiian Islands. The native Hawaiians lived a sheltered and isolated life and suffered deeply and tragically being brought forward into the modern world. Suffered deeply and tragically being brought forward into the modern world. January 16th, 1893 began the acknowledged illegal overthrow of the Hawaii Kingdom government by a group of American businessmen and sugar planters known as the Committee of Safety. They were aided by more than 200 United States Marines. I was just reading a story about how the Marines came towards the palace, and Queen Liliuokalani was standing out on her lanai watching, and as they passed, they all pointed their rifles at her. She found it very disturbing, but one of the officers said later that it was a show of respect. Hard for me to imagine 200 rifles being pointed at me, loaded rifles being pointed at me as a sign of respect. Okay, based on the U.S. Congress New Lands Resolution, Hawaii was formally annexed as a United States territory on August 12, 1898, and became the 50th state in August 1959. The native Hawaiian people were welcoming of all foreigners and were considered to be smart and fast learners. However, for the most part, they were always one or more steps behind what was happening to them. From Captain Cook up through statehood, they were never made fully aware of what was happening. Whatever was taught, changed, or given was first for the benefit of others and secondarily for the benefit of the Hawaiian people, including statehood. It is impossible to undo the past, but the past can be repaired by the actions of the present, by preparing for the future in a different way. The hundreds of thousands of Hawaiian people's modernization deaths will not have been in vain if the islands are allowed the freedom to live out their higher sacred purpose. I'll read that again. It is impossible to undo the past, but the past can be repaired by the actions of the present in preparation for the future. Meaning, the future based on what we have created, if we change our path for the future, it affects the past. As far as, let me read this. The hundreds of thousands of people's modernization deaths will not have been in vain if the islands are allowed the freedom to live out their higher sacred purpose. Reasons, explanations, within this world are often beyond human comprehension. It was like a tightrope walk weaving between several foreign nations and becoming a member state of the greatest nation on earth. As you know, France and Great Britain were kind of vying for control of the islands. The many island ethnicities and cultures living here together with the native Hawaiian since before August 12, 1898 have all, for better or worse, become Americanized. It is now time for the people of Hawaii to consider what has been received and choose again to become its own Hawaiian nation in the service of a higher sacred purpose. It is my opinion we need to do some research, need to plan, create a budget for 2 years out. But it is my opinion that Hawaii, the Hawaiian Islands, can be of greater service to ourselves, to the United States, and to the world if we are our own nation, not as a state. Again, we can be of greater service to the United States, to ourselves, and to the entire world if we are our own nation. I'll talk about that more later. From the days of discovery, Hawaii has been treated like a gateway between East and West and was eventually referred to as the Gateway State. Many of the island residents or their relatives coming from different parts of the world have suffered greatly to get here and to stay here. Hawaii can become a gathering place for communities and nations wanting to work towards self-sufficiency, participatory governance, cultural tolerance and respect, gender equality, socioeconomic justice, environmental sustainability, peace and nonviolence. Hawaii can remain a state while working towards independence by creating a virtual sovereign nation, and deciding in 2 years how to proceed in either remaining a state or in seeking sovereignty. The primary consideration in seeking sovereignty should be in how best can we be of service, how best can Hawaii be of service to the world. Hawaii has a greater purpose than being a tourist attraction. Sovereignty would take several years and could include dual citizenship as well as the nation receiving military lease payments. If Hawaii independently reaches out to the world, for instance, in taking a leading role in managing cleaning the oceans, the world will reach back to Hawaii. We owe this possibility to the native people, for it is primarily their pathway we are traveling. I'll end with that. Mahalo. Thank you again.